It is said life begins at 40. Well, you may be thinking that I'm talking about myself. No, I'm past that age. I'm 45 years old. So who has just turned 40? Kenya Airways.
If I look at the milestones, exciting times for KQ.
Kenya Airways is for us a very, very important customer.
We are proud of the progress it has made since the beginning, especially since it privatized.
So for Kenya Airways, life has just begun. And that's the focus of our show today. Join us as we take you through the airline's 40 years of flying. The good, the bad times, and the future, as well as what others say about the airline. But first, Sarah Okworo is next with some background about the airline as I board this flight to Lusaka, Zambia, one of the first destinations of KQ when it was established. See you.
The first flight of Kenya Airways following the disbanding of the East African Airways was from Nairobi to Mombasa. Kenya Airways had only 6 aircraft when it was launched on January 22nd, 1977. 4 inherited from East African Airways and 2 leased from British Midland Airways. Kenya Airways was privatized in 1995. The carrier now has a fleet of 36 aircraft. As at July 2016, Kenya Airways served 52 destinations in Africa, Europe, Asia, and the Far East. 42 of those destinations are in Africa, meaning only 10 are outside Africa. But through its 18 SkyTeam partners, Kenya Airways can take you over 1,000 destinations across the world. The partners include KLM, Air France, Precision Air, and Air Namibia. Kenya Airways is the biggest contributor to the Kenya Airport Authority revenue, as well as the biggest contributor in terms of revenue to the regulator, the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority. The airline has 4,000 employees. Its capacity is 11,000 passengers per day. And that is the fact sheet for the Chamwada Report. I am Sarah Okworo.
Thank you, Sarah, for that background information. Now, we are just about to depart for Lusaka, Zambia, and that's a 2-hour flight, and Lusaka is 1 hour behind Nairobi. So why Lusaka? As I had told you, Lusaka is one of the first destinations of Kenya Airways when it was established. We will spend a day there and give you our experience there. So as we fly, I leave you with my colleague Elijah Mwangi, who had a one-on-one interview with Kenya Airways MD Mbuvi Ngun.
Well, thank you very much, Alex. I wish you the very best as you travel to Lusaka, Zambia. I wish I was part of that team, but as you rightly put it, it's time to talk to the managing director, KQ, who is none other than Mbuvi Ngun. Remember, he'll be leaving the office in the next 2 months, and we had a lengthy conversation concerning KQ at 40.
KQ at 40, if you look back, started with 6 aircrafts, 4 inherited from East African Airways, 2 which were leased from British Midlands. First flight, 6th of February, 1977. 1995, strategic partnership with KLM on the back of the government deciding it wanted to privatize Kenya Airways, the first African carrier to be privatized. 96, the initial public offering. The years 97 through to the early 2000s, major expansion into Africa because of the reorganization of the network on the back of the joint venture with KLM. Major milestone 2004 when KQ received its first large wide-body 777-200. Fast forward through that period between 2005 to 2010, IOSA certification, joining SkyTeam, rights issue in 2012, first Dreamliner delivered in 2014, and in 2015, some major nominations in Africa, leading business class for the 4th year running, and for the first time African Carrier of the Year. Some amazing achievements in that period of time.
Just a bit offline, because we have people that do not understand why Kenya Airways is abbreviated as KQ. Perhaps maybe you can just, give some insights. How comes it's Kenya Airways and then it's KQ?
KQ is what is called an IATA notation because we are part of the International Airlines Transport Association, and each carrier is given a notation, a code that is a unique identifier. So that is why KQ is KQ and not KA.
Every journey has ups and downs. Some of the dark moments in the KQ journey include a KQ plane crash in Abidjan in the year 2000, in which 169 people perished.
4 days after the crash, investigators had not laid their hands on several pieces of debris strewn all over the beach, like this film lying across here. Alex Chamwada.
Then came the 2007 Douala plane crash, in which 114 people died.
The lows of the accidents that we had in Abidjan and Douala really got us to really strengthen our safety mindset internally. I can confirm, even having joined the airline many years later, the clarity that it brought in terms of the safety awareness. We went for IOSA and got it, which is the IATA notation. We changed significantly the training and recruitment process around our piloting crew. The awareness internally on safety is significantly heightened because safety is really our license to operate today. And those things, those lessons are deeply embedded today in our everyday function.
Talking of safety procedures, Kenya Airways has since then established a training school where trainees go through rigorous training schedule to equip them with necessary technical skills to enable them join the ranks in KQ flight operations.
There is consistent review training, both online and in the classroom. There is a recurrency training that is done. There is review, there is peer review, there is crew resource management to make sure that people are actually working together well in the cabin. All those things actually go to add value in terms of the training.
Between 2005 and 2008, Kenya Airways was significantly profitable, generating a profit before tax of about 6 billion. And so when the airline posted a 26.2 billion after-tax loss for the year ending March 2016, many stakeholders lashed Kenya Airways management, demanding immediate explanation.
The last 2 years of losses in 14 and 15 were significantly bad. Those losses have two elements to them. The first thing is that we were carrying significant capacity. The second thing is that we are carrying costs that are not necessarily cash related on the hedges that we had, and also having to take significant exchange rate movements because of the depreciation of the Kenyan currency.
Okay, so what I get from you is that some of these challenges are not unique to Kenya Airways. And you've mentioned something about competition. And there's this feeling that Kenya Airways is very expensive. Is that the case?
I think when you're talking about costs and expense, it also, very many things come into play. First of all, the question is, when are you booking that ticket? If you're booking a ticket today, vis-a-vis a month ago, the dynamics of pricing in our industry are very different because we offer tickets early on at a lower price, and as you come closer to the booking date, of course, the prices go up. Where are you flying to? Is there a significant frequency? What is your routing? Are you going via destination or are you going direct? All these things actually do come into ticket pricing. Remember that even the competitor you are comparing me with, if we say you're flying, say, from Nairobi to Lagos, I am 4.5 hours or 4-hour 15 flight. Well, maybe with the competition you're going 7 hours. If you choose to take 7 hours, surely there should be a price differentiation linked to the fact that I'm able to take you there more conveniently.
At the end of 2016, Mbuvi Ngun announced that he would leave the national carrier in the first quarter of 2017. At this time, he will have worked with KQ for over 5 years as the group managing director and CEO for 2 years. He talks of some of the challenges he encountered at the helm of the national carrier.
If you look at Kenya specifically, we're operating in an environment where the last high for tourism was in 2011. We are just beginning to see the first shoots of recovery, but we are still significantly below that time. We have been in a situation where we had Al-Shabaab crisis next door in Somalia with the Kenya military going into Somalia, the impact into Kenya. impact of Ebola. So we've been, in effect, in a very difficult economic environment.
After the years of financial loss at Kenya Airways, the national carrier has been implementing a recovery plan dubbed Operation Pride, focusing mainly on cutting costs and improving the operational efficiency in the airline. Well, the KQ restructuring plan seems to be yielding fruit. In a 6-month period ended September last year, KQ posted an operating profit of 949 million, up from operating loss of 2.2 billion a year earlier.
We are still operating today, actually even carrying more people than we were doing even before. How have we done that? The reality is that we went out very clearly and said we had 3 things that we wanted to address as part of our turnaround. 1, how do we come back to profitability? 2, how do we keep our business model agile? And what sort of partners do we partner with to make sure that we are facing the competitive context that we are in? And 3, how do we sustain our financial ability, short-term and long-term?
And talking of this turnaround strategy and the Operation Pride, what's the future of Kenya Airways going with this strategy?
In my perspective, bright. We have to weather the storm. Today, when I look at global demand, dampening slightly because of crisis in Syria, because of the slowdown in economic demand in certain places, and so we are seeing some flux. But what is important for us is how do we differentiate ourselves? First, as an African carrier, and making sure that we are actually serving Africa strongly, then into the networks that we fly into. I believe KQ's future is bright. We have to weather the storm. We have demonstrated over the last year or 2 that we are actually capable of weathering the storm. Now it's how do we keep that tempo in a difficult period to be able to come out strong at the end and face competition. Competition will always be there.
There you go. That was Mbuvi Ngun, the managing director, Kenya Airways, who will be leaving the office, as I had said earlier, in the next 2 months. I now hand you over to Alex Chamwada, who I guess should be in Zambian airspace.
Now, there is a new agenda in Africa to have one passport, remove visa restrictions, and this is aimed at enhancing free movement of people, goods, and services. Grace Mbugwa has more on that.
Countries that Kenyans do not need visas to travel to in Africa include East African Community countries, namely Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Burundi. Between Kenya and Rwanda, the citizens of both countries do not necessarily need a passport, as they can use a national identity card as a travel document. Other countries in Africa where a Kenyan does not need a visa to gain entries are Botswana, Ethiopia, Ghana, Lesotho, Malawi, Mauritius, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. In Namibia, a tourist visa is not required, but a business visa is required. Countries in Africa where Kenyans can travel to but obtain visas on arrival include Burkina Faso, Cape Verde, Democratic Republic of Congo, Djibouti, Madagascar, Nigeria, Senegal, Seychelles, Sierra Leone, South Sudan, Sudan, and Togo. Well, the East Africa community has made progress when it comes to free movement of goods and people across the region. But unless critical issues like security are addressed across the continent, the agenda of having one common passport in Africa remains to be just that, an agenda. For the Chamwada Report, I am Grace Mbugwa.
We've now arrived at the Kenneth Kaunda International Airport in Lusaka, Zambia, after 2 hours in the sky. And this is where we take a break. It is now 10 a.m. local time. In Kenya, it is 11 a.m. And we will spend about 6 hours in Lusaka city before returning to Nairobi this evening. So stay with us. We will share our experience in the city when we return. Welcome back. Now, we spent about 6 hours in Lusaka. Time now to fly back to Nairobi. That's another 2 hours in the sky. Local time here is about 5:30, and we're expected to be in Nairobi about 9:30. Remember, Kenya is 1 hour ahead of Zambia. So sit back, relax, and fly with us as we look into 40 years of KQ in the sky. And as we begin this second part of the show, allow me to tell you what we were able to do in Lusaka before flying back as I board. Take care. No sooner had I disembarked from the plane than I met Kenya's High Commissioner to Zambia, Sophie Kombe, who was about to board a different flight to Lilongwe, Malawi. It was just a coincidence. Balozi, tell us about Zambia-Kenya-Zambia relationship.
Zambia and Kenya has a long historical tie, which is way back in 1960, where the two founding fathers, Jomo Kenyatta and Kenneth Kaunda, the Pan-Africans of Africa. So we really have a very strong relationship in this country. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
are there Kenyans here, and what do they do?
As I said, quite a number of Kenyans living in Zambia, which they came during the 60s, during the independence of this country. And we have some of the corporate clients. As you know, the Secretariat of COMESA is based in Zambia. We have the UN as well. And we have quite a number of, people who are doing craftsmen in this country as well.
Yeah, and you told me you are rushing to meet the DP. Where, which country?
Blantyre, that is in Lilongwe. On the same aspect, the main agenda for us being in Blantyre is to actually campaign for Amina.
For the
chair
of the Africa Union Commission. We have to leave Balozi to go. I just bumped into Balozi here in Lusaka at the Kenneth Kaunda International Airport. So safari njema, tutakutana wakati mwingine. Thank you for giving us.
Karibu Lusaka.
Asante sana. God bless. Safari njema.
Asante.
Zambia in South Africa is a landlocked country. Its capital city is Lusaka, and the currency used here is Zambian kwacha. The exchange rate is $1 to about 10 Zambian kwacha. The country's population is about 14 million according to the 2013 World Bank data. Zambia's president is Edgar Lungu. While in Lusaka, we got a moment to visit the Freedom Statue around the corner from the Lusaka National Museum, which is dedicated to freedom fighters and those who lost their lives in the struggle for Zambia's independence. The depiction of a man breaking his chains symbolizes the country's break with colonial bondage and was erected to celebrate Zambia's independence in 1964. Our next stop was the Kenya Airways office, where we met the country manager, Pauline Kariuki, who told us about the Kenyan Airways operations in Zambia, the only African country where the Kenyan national carrier has 3 destinations. That is Lusaka, Ndola, and Victoria Falls.
So we operate what we call a linked flight, and the Lusaka flight is linked with Harare, actually. We also then have Ndola. Ndola is linked with Lubumbashi in the DRC, and we have Livingstone that is linked with Cape Town in South Africa.
So who are the Kenya Airways clients on the Zambian routes?
Well, we have various segments. We have the corporate traveler, and for your information, the headquarters for COMESA is in Lusaka. And of course, being COMESA, there's a lot of travel within Africa. So we have the corporate clients, which is not restricted to COMESA only. Then we have the trader segment. Our traders are our guests who are going to, Dubai, Guangzhou, Bangkok, Hong Kong. We also have the visit family and friends, We have a lot of people working in Lusaka who have families abroad. So we can also call that the segment that also goes home a lot, or they have the families coming to visit. We have also the students. Actually, Bombay is one of those routes that can tell you about, medical students. Also a lot of big Indian community living in Zambia generally.
What makes KQ stand out in this region?
being an African carrier, that has a very access to the rest of the world in terms of where our hub is. For example, if you're going to Europe, let's say, the best route to take would be through Nairobi to get to Europe, as opposed to going south to go up again, right? Or let's say, as opposed to going east to go west.
And we found the staff here upbeat about 40 years of Kenya Airways.
When I joined, we only had 2 flights flying from Nairobi to Lusaka. So I've seen Kenya Airways grow to where it is now. We only had flights on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Later on, we had a 3rd flight on Wednesday. It's been quite a good journey, so to say.
Finally, we could not have left Lusaka without having a taste of their traditional dish. The staple food here is nchima, which in Nyanja community is like the Kenyan ugali, although the Zambian one is softer. And you will not miss sukuma wiki or kales. Here they call it rep. Chicken is nkuku, omena is kapenta, and fish is nzomba. You are watching Kenya Airways at 40, and remember, this show comes to you right from the sky. Now, the captain tells us we are still in the Zambian airspace, but we are about to cross into the Tanzanian airspace. Now, let me take a moment and share with you my experience with Kenya Airways. The first time I traveled KQ was back in 1998. That was on a trip from Nairobi to Harare. By then, I was not a journalist. I was working in the publishing and book trade industry. We had gone to Harare to attend a book fair, and we spent a week there. On return to Nairobi, guess what? That was on August 7, 1998, and that's the day there was a bomb blast in Nairobi city. The city had changed. And as a journalist, I've covered Kenya Airways in various ways, in both good and bad times. Let me begin by bad times. I covered the Kenya Airways plane crash in Abidjan in the year 2000. Then there was the 2006 plane crash in Douala. I covered those 2 plane crashes. And you may be remembering the famous Daring Abroad show, as well as this show, the Chamwada Report. I've managed to crisscross the world, travel to various parts of the world with travel courtesy Kenya Airways. Let me now take yet another break, but to just give you a little more on what others say about Kenya Airways.
We are proud of the progress it has made since the beginning, especially since it privatized. We are concerned about the poor performance in the last 4 years or so, but we do our best to encourage them and discuss with them and give ideas on how we think they can get out of their current problem. We are seeing an improvement in the performance of KQ now. We are extremely confident that KQ will get out of its problems, particularly once new and better financing packages are introduced.
It has been 40 glorious years. Okay, they are in some turbulence right now. But, you know, when you are out traveling, you know, sometimes there's a little bit of turbulence, but afterwards it's like clear blue skies. And I'm so proud to be part of being a partner with Kenya Airways every day. And I'm looking forward to the next 40 years being a partner of Kenya Airways. So congratulations to Kenya Airways on their 40th anniversary, and the best of luck for the future.
What an amazing journey. We are back in Nairobi. It's now 9:30 p.m. after a one-day trip to Lusaka, Zambia. We left in the morning at 8. So it means you can have breakfast in Nairobi, lunch in Lusaka, and dinner in Nairobi. And that's how we wrap up our show today. We focused on 40 years of Kenya Airways in the skies. Join us next week for another informative show, and we will be looking into how the aviation industry works and the role of that industry in Kenya's economy. On behalf of the crew, thank you so much for watching, and bye-bye for now.